Some days you want a little extra oomph to your usual look. Whether that's lashes for days with the viral Liquid Lash Extensions mascara or awakening your eyes with a lasting lift and soft color with the Brilliant Eye Brightener, Thrive Causemetics is your go-to when you want to amplify your everyday look. Whether you want a simple, just got to get out of the door routine or full glam, you'll always look and feel like the best version of yourself with Thrive Causemetics. Plus, every product is 100% vegan, cruelty-free, and made with clean, skin-loving ingredients that work with your skin, not against it. And for every product purchased, Thrive Causemetics donates to help communities thrive. So every time you use your favorite Thrive Causemetics product, you're helping communities you care about too. Amplify your everyday. Go to thrivecosmetics.com/shine26 for an exclusive offer of 20% off your first order. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/shine26.
IPVanish protects every device you own. Your phone, your laptop, your smart TV. If it connects to the internet, it should be protected. IPVanish encrypts your connection and masks your IP address, helping keep your browsing private at home and on public Wi-Fi. And with no device limits, one account covers everything. Stream with added privacy. Browse securely. Connect with confidence. Right now, save 83% off the 2-year plan. Get started today at ipvanish.com/audio and take control of your privacy with IPVanish.
Why aren't you eating right? Because eating right is hard? Because it isn't. Kevin Hart fixed it 4 damn years ago with The One. The One is Vita Hustle's game-changing meal-replacing super shake. Inspired by Kevin Hart's passion and belief that we all have the right to eat right. Kevin Hart is referring to himself in the third person because he's fired up. Because The One just passed 5 million super shakes sold. 5 million. Just a quick gut-healthy glass of The One gives you all the proteins, all the greens, and all the vitamins and more. One shake, no chaos. Listeners get 20% off their first purchase at VitaHustle.com. Go to VitaHustle.com. That's VITA hustle.com.
Hi guys, welcome to Altar Call. I'm your host Tane, here to talk to you today about the Temptation Island reunion, part 1. If you heard the final batch recap with myself and Brian, we talked about the fact that we don't understand why Nick Viall has the reunion. I don't understand why Netflix just couldn't host the reunion with the great host that they have, Mark, who was there through the journey, who knows how to ask the right questions. I just don't understand it. Kudos to him for whatever deal he brokered with the devil to get all this. But in my search for it, it's on YouTube if you are interested in watching it. He also hosted the reunion last year. So I don't know, maybe he has a multi-year deal and he just thought it best not to announce it. This is my second time listening to Nick Viall's podcast from start to finish in my life, or should I say watching this podcast, because it's visual. The first was the Bachelor in Paradise. Their reunion was also Nick Viall. Over there. Again, some show that has Jesse Palmer and he could be the host, but Nick Viall has it. You guys, I cannot promise that I am going to watch part 2 of this. This was a lot to watch. It's my bad. I found out much later that I watched the uncut extended version. I didn't see any other version. So I don't know if it's the only one or I just missed it, but it was uncut. It was long and it really highlighted the need for editors because this was so painful for me, guys. And it was just 2 couples. We only made it through 2 couples and Mama didn't raise no quitter, and I know I should probably complete it, but I cannot promise, guys, that I'm going to watch part 2 because this was too much. And I don't think it's anything that I cannot get from clips on TikTok or from the cast themselves talking, because this was truly a cast I wanted to be on TV, honestly. But so let's just dive into it. The women are all wearing bustiers and the men are in jackets and a sweatshirt, except Summit. So basically, I'm just saying it's not the typical reunion where people are all glammed up. They're pretty stylish but casual, but they're all wearing bustiers. Kind of like anytime they were at the bonfire, they had the same style of dress. It was kind of similar to that. Summit and Cole now have mustaches. Um, Mikey has obviously lost weight, but Nick says, "Oh, Mikey, you're looking good these days. What's different about you?" And Mikey's just like, "Oh, life has been good. It's been great. That's all I can say." He asked Cole if he's reading anything these days, and Cole is like, "You mean like a book?" And Natalie's like, "Oh, Natalie Joy is Nick Vile's wife and also his co-host on the podcast." And she says, like a journal, and he finally gets it because, Cole read Scarlett's journal when they switched villas. Um, I told y'all that she wasn't feeling Bradley, which is why that whole emotional, I had to let you know how I felt before I leave, was kind of weird because Scarlett says that he's crying through her off, and she's a beautiful human being, but it was just a friendship for her. So Nick asked each of them why they agreed to come on this show. And this is an example of where an editor would be great because they all went into this detailed reason why they joined the show. And God bless all the other reality shows that save us from everything else. Like even Peacock, when we watch the uncut edition of The Housewives, it doesn't feel this painful. So he starts with Jack and Cheyenne, and it was fully Jack's idea. She was not on board, and he convinced her that if they can get past this, they can get past anything. She was looking to fully trust him, but she said she wouldn't take anything back. But remember, she kept saying, and she said it again, that she knew how this was going to end anyways. She said it took her months for her to be convinced. She didn't actually show up to the last meeting with the execs, and they actually came in as an alternate couple. So they were not supposed to be cast. They were an alternate couple. And it's so funny to me because Brian and I were like, what would this season have had, without Jack and Cheyenne? So if they hadn't come in, I wonder what happened to the alternate couple. So Nick is like, if you didn't want to do the show, why didn't you just end the relationship? She was like, yeah, even though I knew what was going to happen, like I still had hope that, things will work out okay. Guys, I'm doing you a favor. I watched so you don't have to. That's the highlight of, how they came on the show. For Sydney and Mikey was like, he absolutely was not going to do the show. Sydney says that he's the person that had watched the show and she had just watched like only a few like episodes, not even seasons, but he had watched a lot of the seasons and he's watched it many times. Sydney did say they've talked about dating shows like this in the past, and I'm curious. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is Ultimatum, but I'm like, what other show were they contemplating or thinking about doing as a couple? I would like to know that. And she told casting that he's not interested, and they were just like, "Oh, that's fine. Let's just get on a call. Let's just see how he goes, and we'll see what happens there." She says that she was hoping that this would be a good way for her to see if his actions match his words, because when they finished college, it didn't ring true. So she gives a little background about, because again, we were asking throughout the season, like, what is the thing that he did? And she said that she was a transfer student. So she didn't know about his hoish ways. She found out he was a hoe when they started sleeping together. And then someone was like, oh, he has a girlfriend. So they broke up and she didn't talk to him for 2 years. So then when he came back, she didn't just believe that he changed overnight. And I'm like, wait, you skipped a lot of steps. Like, why? How did you get back together? Why did you get back together? How long was it? Like a lot of things in there. Um, she said the way that she told him, we don't have the answer to that, but she said the way that she told him is like she picked him up from a show. And I'm like, what show? What am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing something because I don't always troll the Reddit streets, but is he a comedian? Is he something? I don't know. But she picked him up from a show from the airport and she was recording him and she asked him about the show and he was like, and I quote, fuck no. And she had to stop recording. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like this dude just wanted to be famous or be on TV in some way. Just the fact that she said that they've talked about shows like this, I feel like the full conversation is, hey, we could go on one of these shows. Like, we'll be fine. We'll be all right. But at least we might be able to get into influencing. Because if you guys remember, I've seen videos of them at a creator house or something like that. So, in the same vein. Um, He said that Nick asked him what eventually wore him down and why he agreed to do this. And he said that, she's my best friend. We've heard that so many times. And he wanted to support her and he would never not support her. And it was something that she wanted to do. So he wasn't going to be the reason why they didn't do it. Natalie says, like, I mean, but since you were a fan of the show, because he said he thought that the show was fake. He watched so much of it, but he thought it was fake. And Natalie was like, but you were a fan. So why did you think it was fake? And he's just like, I don't know. I just thought that they tell them what to do, but no, it's real. It's real, y'all, in his animated way. And Summit is like, but that makes it even weirder that you watch the show, you see that they don't always go home together and things happen, and you still agreed to do it. But he does say that the thing that he regrets the most is that he was the most immature person and it was embarrassing for him to watch. Summit and Kaylee. Kaylee brought it up to him, and I am very surprised about that, giving like her past insecurities. I'm surprised about that. And she said she brought it to him and he was excited. And Nick is like, oh, he was so excited that you questioned, like, oh, why is he that excited? And she's like, exactly. But the kicker is they reached out to her as a single, not as a couple. They reached out to her as a single because at that point they were broken up. For those of you who remember, Summit and Kaylee are in that cycle of breaking up, get back together. And they were broken up. And he, at the point where they got back together, I guess they decided that they were gonna go ahead and Summit. I mean, because Summit was so excited, he was like, "Oh, are they taking couples? Let's see if that happens." And then he also told her, like, if she didn't go, or he didn't go, that he would think about it for the rest of her life. And Nick is like, "Oh, almost like an ultimatum." And Summit is not happy about this. You guys know he doesn't like being labeled, and you can see his facial expression just change at that moment. For Cole and Scarlett, Scarlett got a DM on Instagram and she did not reply and just let it go. But then it came up again and she brought it up to him and he was like, oh, it might be fun. So, very interestingly, it seems like three of the women brought it up on this season. Everyone except Cheyenne are the people who brought it up to their men, because usually people expect that it's the men that bring them over to Temptation Island. So she does mention Below Deck. I told y'all that she had been on Below Deck before. And she says, like, she told him, like, it's not going to be easy. Like, even though we're going in for one thing, the thing about reality shows is that it brings out other things that you may not even realize that is within you. So Nick asked what the status of each of them's relationships is. Kaylee and Summit are still together. They were the only lone couple to make it out of Temptation Island. And Scarlett and Cole are back together. I know, guys. I think I heard everyone's jaw drop. Like, why? Like, if anyone was going to get back together, I think I had a solid chance of Jack and Cheyenne getting back together first before Scarlett and Cole. That might be. I'm not. I find them boring, but that might be, just to answer that question, maybe incentive to watch part two just to see how did we get back together. Is it because their lives are intertwined and it's so much trouble to separate and to break a lease? Is that what it is? Because I can't believe they're together. How did they get the fire back, or whatever it was that was missing between them? Sydney and Xavier are not together because Sydney and Mikey are not together, and they're like, how about Xavier? And Sydney's like, oh, I'm just doing me and I'm just living my life and, discovering myself, or something like to that effect. So, okay. So the couple they start with is Kaylee and Summit. They ask if they moved in together, if they've got the dog. The answer is no. They did not move in together. They do not have a dog. And it's been 8 or 9 months since filming ended. And they said they're going to get there, that life happens. This is the problem with this cast. All season long and even in this reunion, there's just a lot of talking around things and not being direct about what's happening. And it just makes you so frustrated to the point where I don't even care. I don't even want to know anymore, because how hard is it to say what the exact reason it is why you haven't moved in together? I'm not saying they should have, but if you haven't after 9 months, which is almost a year, give us a direct reason. Don't say life happens and things that happen in life. What are the things? So it's quite annoying. Nick brings up the things that, she said, that he's always saying hurtful words or things that hurt her. And she kept saying, like, she didn't want to talk about it, but the show dove into it. And I'm like, how are we expecting to come here to work in your relationship and not talk about the things that actually like affected your relationship? But again, they say it all the time that they come thinking that it's about temptation, and then it's much more than temptation. So she says that she's still defending him. It's just she's saying like, "Oh, I know he didn't mean it. He didn't have any malintent." And to me, I feel like she's still doing that thing where she says the truth about what he's saying about her, and then she's defending him. And I'm like, I don't know. This doesn't seem right. But she claims that ever since the show is has been done, that he hasn't done it. And I'm like, done what? And how was he healed so fast that he wasn't even baby steps or a work in progress? He just stopped doing it. I will say that Nick does push for an example. Like, what are some of the things that he said, or what do you mean when you say that he said hurtful things around you? Summit says like he just wasn't around delicate women, that he grew up with a single mom who gave it straight. He had brothers, so he just wasn't, around delicate women. He brings up the squatting example again, which he's already said on the show. And he's like, yeah, so I'm not trying to say anything, but she took it that way. But Kaylee is like, there were others. There were other things that you said. And he's like, if there were others, I don't know about it. So these people are still trying to put a show. And I just, Kaylee wants to tell us that she's doing better, but it's like, she's truly trying to make Summit end game, that whatever it is that happens, she's going to take it, and she's just going to keep defending him and saying that, all is well and he has no bad intentions. He has no bad intentions, but it still hurts you. And it's even worse because he keeps saying that I don't know what I did. I don't know the others that I said. So how did he get better if he has no idea what it is that he did? They bring up the whole thing calling with their moms. If you guys remember, I was wondering why he got a call and nobody else got a call. Cheyenne just abruptly just brings up like it was unfair. Oh, Nick asked how his mom was doing, and Cheyenne says like it was unfair that they didn't get to call their moms because they wanted to talk to their moms. And he was like, I don't know. I asked to speak to my mom, and they were like, well, if you speak to your mom, it has to be on camera. And he's like, I mean, yeah, sure. So I don't know why his case was special, and he was the one that got to talk to his mom. Nick asked what Kaylee's relationship is with his mom because, again, if you guys remember, I'm like, I don't know. This woman did not sound like she was a fan. And she says, we are friends. And then pauses and then says, well, I've only met her 3 times because she lives in Montana. So we're not like super close. But I'm like, I don't know. Your body language is not matching what you're saying, because even if she doesn't live there, I mean, there's phones, there's FaceTime, there's things you could have a relationship. So I don't know what's going on there. Natalie segues abruptly to the fact that Chris got a DM or sent a DM to Nick and said that their relationship was an intense emotional experience. And Kaylee's like, that's a lot. I don't think it was that. And that Yesenia says that she feels that Summit didn't continue his connection with her because he thought that he would be tempted by her. He says, honestly, there was not one time that he was physically tempted. And it was just really hard to watch all the things that she was saying about him. And that's Kaylee. And Kaylee is saying, like, yes, it was hard for her to watch her talk negatively about him all the time. But what they didn't show was that she was saying that she loves him every fucking day. Ask the girls, they know, and they didn't say that. That producers just lined them up to talk about their problems. And since, she wasn't the main problem in their relationship, again, guys, how can you pretend that you're in a great relationship when you have thoughts like this? You pretty much corrected him, but you can easily see her hold herself back like, oh, wait, I'm not going to say anything that makes him look bad in public. And then you keep insisting that he says all these things to hurt you, which I said, like, I feel like it was pretty casual on the show. But if what she's saying is actually the case and he is saying all these things about her, that is not a healthy relationship. She needs to leave. Like, no one needs to be ingesting negativity in their brains because it's going to be hard to undo. She does say, and then yes, and for her to say like she wasn't the main problem in their relationship, I don't know, maybe that's true. But if two people are in a relationship and it's not working, two people are playing a part in it, even if it's the sole thing being that you are staying in a relationship where this person is not treating you the best, but you're making excuses for them and you're thinking like, oh, I got to make this work. Again, at the time that we watched this, she was 24. You would think that it's the end of her rope and, she's going to, I think her biggest fear, like she said on the show, was being alone and she was going to die a spinster, but she's 24. There's a whole life ahead of her. So I think what the show also lacks is telling us or showing us more about their background and their family life, just to understand how Kaylee or why Kaylee is the way that she is. Summit says that the thing that they learned or they worked out on the island is that they're innately different people and that's okay, that he values his independence. The things that are making things work is that he does value his independence, but also he doesn't want to speak for her, but she got more confident and that really helped them, her being more confident. And the things that he wanted to do on his own or thought that he just wanted to do on his own, he invites her to do it and he wants her to be around. I mean, I think that was nice. I think that was a nice way to wrap up their segment, but that was it for Kaylee and Summit.
Conversations about GLP-1 are all the rage these days, and it almost always centers around weight loss. It's been eye-opening to realize that there are way more benefits that go beyond the scale, like better lab numbers, more energy, and new levels of confidence. One of the scary parts about using a GLP-1 for most people are the self-administered shots because they can be intimidating. But guess what? Ro now offers the first FDA-approved GLP-1 pill for weight loss at the lowest cost around. That's one daily pill for fewer cravings and feeling fuller with an innovative new formula clinically proven to maximize weight loss. All this and more is why I'd go with Ro if I ever wanted to start a GLP-1 journey. Go to ro.co/alter to see if you're eligible for the new GLP-1 pill on Ro. That's ro.co/altar to get started on Ro. Go to ro.co/safety for boxed warnings and full safety information about GLP-1 medication.
IPVanish protects every device you own. Your phone, your laptop, your smart TV. If it connects to the internet, it should be protected. IPVanish encrypts your connection and masks your IP address, helping keep your browsing private at home and on public Wi-Fi. And with no device limits, one account covers everything. Stream with added privacy. Browse securely. Connect with confidence. Right now, save 83% off the 2-year plan. Get started today at ipvanish.com/audio and take control of your privacy with IPVanish.
We move over to Sydney and Mikey, and my God, guys, it was a lot. It was a lot. Just Mikey doing most of the talking, actually. And I just was like, can we move on? At some point, people were moving or like switching positions because you could tell it was uncomfortable. I don't know if it was just me. I feel like Scarlett and Cole were making faces and everyone was just over it and they were ready to move on. But let's get into it. Sydney says that it was extremely hard watching him go through the emotions because she hadn't seen him be this emotional before. And Sydney starts crying. And Mikey echoes again, like, oh, she's my best friend. I know she loves me no matter what, but we're best friends. They say that they haven't seen each other for 4 months. And then say very casually that they got back together 4 days after they left the show. We're like, what? And they said things were good. But the problem is that he was holding on to what happened on the island. Nick says like he's shocked to hear that 4 days later they got back together and Mikey starts showboating. He's like looking at the camera like, hey, like of course, like how basically insinuating like, of course she was gonna come back to me. Like, please, have you seen this material? Why wouldn't she? And I'm like, Mikey, you learn nothing. Nick says, they got back together and for him to be throwing it back in her face, like the things that happened on the island, that he kind of feels like old Mikey came back and was in control. And y'all can guess what he says next because every reality show guy does this after they misbehave and they're being called to task. He's like, I've been on my therapy journey, so I'm not the same Mikey. I'm a new Mikey. Again, he's like 24. And I was very immature, but I'm better now. I'm living in my truth, my walk with God. And he's just patting himself on the back that, for him to be willing to live in the truth that he messed up shows his growth. I'm like, okay. Sydney says that he told her that they edited his clips, that he was just being clipped left, right, and center. He kept saying clip, clip, and that she felt guilty. And she just didn't know how to move forward with Xavier, knowing that she may have read everything wrong, and the way she moved was based on what she saw in the clips, and he's telling her that it's not completely accurate. And I'm just like, all of this is a mess. I have to keep remembering, like, all these people are so young, but all of this is a mess. Like, why are you moving based on what someone says, not based on how you feel or how the person made you feel? And that's why you got back together and got exactly what happened before, and now you're broken up again. It's like, patterns are a very terrible thing. What is it? I read this book and it says, like, people would rather continue what is familiar to them, even if it's bad for them, but because it's what's comfortable, they'll stick with it. You had, allegedly, because I haven't read anything about Xavier, but from what we hear, no, Mikey even says it later on that he's a great guy because he knows someone that knows him. You have a great guy in Xavier, but you chose to go back to what you know because maybe you're not used to being treated well. So it's unfortunate. So, um, he says, like, in this case between them, there's no good guy, bad guy, just two people who don't align. I'm like, why are you speaking for them? Maybe there is a bad guy. Maybe there is a bad guy who decides they want to get back with someone, and you start throwing it in their face, like, well, what you did to me on the show was terrible. Like, I'm never, like, something will happen and you just throw it in her face. Listen, you can't convince me that Mikey didn't do that to prove that, listen, this is the first person that I've ever been faithful to. Like, I know what I can pull. I used to be a hoe. I can get you back if I wanted to. And then you knew you were never going to forgive her for what happened. Like, it would be a stretch for any relationship, not just Mikey and Sydney. We literally, like, for all of Mikey's faults, I can admit that it is not easy to look at the person that you love fall in love with someone else. And he had to go through that the entire time. I just don't know if they were already rocky, how they would have survived that. Because as we found out, she's living with a whole bunch of guilt, and he's living like on a soapbox because he thinks he's better because he resisted temptation, and she's the one who did that. And now he's holding that over her head. Like, it's just a tough thing to go through in a relationship. So Mikey says, like, listen, the thing is, I have to be kind to myself. I'm just 24. And he just wouldn't shut up. He has so much room to grow. So he's doing well. And as long as my best friend is happy, that's all I care about. I just was really annoyed at his rambling. He just kept saying, the only other person I've ever loved as much as her is my mom, and my mom. And, at this point I was going through is Sydney, my mom, Sydney. He was just saying a whole bunch of stuff that I was like, make it stop. We don't have to be subjected to this. Then he starts saying that Sydney can do no wrong in his eyes, that she's just like the best person and she's the greatest. And I'm like, oh, it's not true. The thing about these guys is they just say what they think you want to hear. If she can do no wrong in your eyes, but you broke up because you kept throwing up the wrong that you perceived that was done to you, you kept throwing it in her face. So stop, please. He was at max performance and it was draining everybody in the room and myself, the viewer. Nick asked if she thinks that they can get back together, and she's like, she sees some growth in him, but she doesn't think they can ever get back together. Um, Sydney lost me when she said she had to, when they asked about Xavier, she said she had to process all those feelings with Mikey, and she just couldn't jump ship and go with Xavier because Mikey is her best friend. I was like, I don't know, you jump ship on Xavier. Some may argue that, Xavier was just a few days and Mikey has been like a year, but potato, I don't know. It's still the same thing. You jump ship. You knew how Xavier made you feel. Focus on that. You also know how Mikey made you feel. Focus on that. I think I'm just mad at myself because I was just really proud of her and the way she moved during the island. And after 4 days, that was it. So, Xavier still performing is like, oh my God, what are the odds that Xavier grew up with my best friend? My best friend. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? And he said he's a great guy. So I was just, happy that he made her so happy, and just rambling and rambling. Mikey says that he was so tight in the villa, they didn't even show all of it, that he punched a hole in the wall. And I'm like, that is not a flex. Like, that is not okay for you to punch a hole in the wall. Nick is like, oh, that sounds expensive. Who fixed it? He was like, I don't know, maybe Netflix. And he's like, oh, shout out Netflix, shout out Netflix. I'm like, somebody save me. So he made her throw away all the pictures of her and Xavier. She tries to tell him that, he's a big personality and he's like main character energy. And he basically makes it about him. And he's forcing her to say that he's great and her biggest fan, because he starts saying like, all I could do is be me. And, everyone says like, maybe I have too much emotions, but I'm myself. I'd rather not be fake. And the way that she made it seem like she has a big personality and main character, he's heard it his whole life and it's exhausting. And what is he going to do? And she's like, I'm not saying don't be yourself. I'm just like, I shouldn't have to dim my light just to accommodate, your big personality. But at this point, everyone is moving around. Cole has moved around. Scarlett has made as many faces as possible. Everyone is just ready to move on, but these people are not moving on. Now, again, I say that Mikey has all his faults and he was kind of like a lot, but I do think compared to Summit's segment, I do think Nick was much harsher on Mikey than he was to Summit. I don't know if the difference is that Summit and Kaylee are together, or that Summit is not as boisterous as Mikey. No, that's not the word. As annoying as Mikey. Mikey is annoying. But I will acknowledge the fact that Nick was much harsher on him than he was to Summit. I will say, like, these are some critiques that Nick gets where he just, if he doesn't like you, he's just going to go hard on you. I don't know if he watches these shows, if he has backgrounds, if he's just told what to ask, but I mean, it sounds like he watched the show, like he asked the questions like he did. So I hope for his sake that he did. Mikey is trying to say that he's been in a relationship before, but then he cheated, so it doesn't count as a relationship. Again, another segment that was too long, because they're trying to tell him like, you can't just say I cheated on you, so it's not a relationship. It is a relationship. You just happen to cheat on the person. They asked Sydney how it was when she reached out to Xavier. She said she reached out to him and he was very understanding about everything that's going on, and he never threw it in her face. That she went back to Mikey. She asked him for a cup of coffee, and she just couldn't believe that he was that, understanding. And that's how they ended. And you guys are lucky I just gave you the highlights. I think it was like an hour and 30 for the entire thing, but that was it. So hopefully by the time part 2 comes out, they are done with Mikey and Sydney's segment, but it didn't seem like they had wrapped it up completely. So we'll see. Like I said, guys, I'm so sorry, but I cannot promise that I can do part 2 because it's not a TV show. It is a podcast that has visuals, that is being produced like it's a talk show. So I don't know. They need to figure out the editing and figure out a way to make it more intriguing for those of us listening, watching, whatever it's called. So yeah, that was it for part 1 of Temptation Island. Let me know if you watched, and let me know what you think. All right, guys, until next time, stay subscribed so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Find me on socials and you can send me messages, questions, or comments at AltaCallMAFS. Until next time, guys. Bye.
When I found out I was going to be a parent, I immediately felt a lot of anxiety and worry. So I went on to BetterHelp to try to look for a therapist to help me with that.
My relationship with my family and with my boyfriend and with myself were suffering. I really needed help.
I was ruminating a lot. Really getting those thoughts out to a therapist and getting feedback was just life-changing.
Discover what BetterHelp Online Therapy can do for you. Visit BetterHelp.com today.
IPVanish protects every device you own. Your phone, your laptop, your smart TV. If it connects to the internet, it should be protected. IPVanish encrypts your connection and masks your IP address, helping keep your browsing private at home and on public Wi-Fi. And with no device limits, one account covers everything. Stream with added privacy. Browse securely. Connect with confidence. Right now, save 83% off the 2-year plan. Get started today at ipvanish.com/audio and take control of your privacy with IPVanish.